The giant space station floated in the silent darkness of space, glowing with thousands of lights like a small city hanging in the stars. Inside it, millions of people worked, talked, and rushed through the hallways every day. But no one ever noticed the janitors who cleaned behind them. Kai was one of those janitors, a young man with tired eyes and old shoes, moving from corridor to corridor with a cleaning bot and a small toolbox. He lived a simple life, invisible to everyone around him, and he had accepted that long ago. But there was one person he could never ignore, a quiet girl who always sat alone near the large observation window on level 12. Every time Kai walked past her, she looked like she was lost in another world. Her hood covered half her face, her clothes were simple, and she never spoke to anyone. Most people avoided her without knowing why. Maybe it was her silence. Or maybe it was the strange calm around her. Kai didn't know. But he felt something different every time he saw her. Something he couldn't explain. One morning, Kai saw something new in the hallway. Huge posters shining on every wall. The Imperial Gala printed in bold golden letters. It was an event only the rich, the powerful, and the high-ranking officers could attend. People were already talking about it, whispering about who might be invited. Kai sighed and joked to himself that it would be nice to go. His friends laughed when he said it, telling him that even dreaming about the gala was too big for someone like him. He laughed with them. But inside he felt the sting. Later that day, Kai walked past the observation window again, and the quiet girl was there. As always, sitting alone, staring at the stars. Something inside him pushed him forward. He didn't understand the feeling, but his feet moved on their own. His heart began to beat faster, his palms sweating. He didn't know why he cared so much, but he wanted to talk to her. He wanted to know her name. He wanted to know why she always sat there alone when he finally reached her. She lifted her head slowly. For the first time, Kai saw her eyes clearly. They were calm yet mysterious, like she had seen things others couldn't even imagine. He tried to say something, but his voice stuck for a second. He felt foolish, but he forced himself to speak. "Do you want to go to the gala with me?" he asked, not believing he actually said it. The words came out of his mouth before he could think, and when he heard himself, he felt like running away. What was he doing asking a girl he didn't know to such an important event? And he wasn't even invited himself. The girl didn't answer right away. She stared at him, not with anger or confusion, but with something else, something deeper. The lights above them flickered strangely, like the station felt her reaction. The air around them suddenly felt heavier. Kai swallowed nervously. She finally spoke a single word. Yes, her voice was soft, but it carried a strange power. A strength hidden behind her quiet nature. Kai blinked, confused and shocked. He expected her to laugh at him or ignore him. But she said yes. He stood frozen for a moment, unsure what to do, unsure if this was real. His heart raced even faster now, but this time it was not fear. It was excitement mixed with something he could not name, but the moment didn't stay peaceful. Two guards standing down the hallway suddenly turned their heads toward them. Their eyes narrowed, and they stared at the girl with a strange alertness. Their hands moved closer to their weapons, as if they sensed something dangerous. Kai didn't understand what was happening. Why were guards looking at them? Why were they watching her so closely? The girl noticed the guards too. Her face remained calm, but her hands tightened slightly. Kai felt something shift in the air again, but he didn't know what it meant. He tried to ignore the strange tension and forced a smile. "I'm Kai," he said quietly, trying to continue the conversation. "And your name is?" She hesitated for a second, then answered, "Lyra. Lyra, a simple name." But the way she said it felt important, almost heavy. Kai couldn't explain why. But hearing her name felt like hearing a secret he wasn't meant to know. People passing by glanced at her and then quickly looked away, even though she had done nothing. It was like everyone felt something about her but didn't understand what it was. As Kai and Lyra walked together toward the lower levels, he noticed small drones hovering at a distance behind them. Drones never follow janitors. This was not normal. Something strange was happening, and he could feel it. Lyra kept glancing over her shoulder. Her calm face had a shadow of fear now, but she tried to hide it. She suddenly stopped and looked at him. "Don't tell anyone about the gala," she whispered. Her voice had a warning inside it, a fear that didn't belong to normal people. Kai thought she was nervous, but her eyes showed something deeper. Like she was hiding something bigger than he could imagine. Before he could ask anything, alarms rang out somewhere deeper in the station. Loud and sharp, then suddenly stopped. It lasted only 3 seconds. But those 3 seconds changed Lyra's expression completely. She froze, her eyes wide, as if she knew exactly what the alarm meant. Kai felt the tension rise again, but he still didn't understand. Lyra stepped closer to him and whispered, "Something has awakened." The air turned cold, and Kai felt chills run down his spine. Asterisk Kai stood still for a moment, trying to understand Lyra's words. Something had awakened, but what did she mean? The hallway around them suddenly felt colder, quieter, as if the entire station was holding its breath. Lyra pulled her hood lower and started walking fast. Kai followed her, confused but unable to stop now. He felt like he had stepped into a story far bigger than his life, and every second was pulling him deeper. The drones that had been following them earlier now moved closer. Their blue lights blinked quickly, as if scanning the air. Kai pretended not to notice them, but he felt their presence like eyes on the back of his neck. He wondered why drones were interested in a janitor and a quiet girl. But he didn't dare ask. The guards in the distance continued watching them with sharp, suspicious eyes. Kai didn't understand why everyone suddenly cared so much. They had never looked at him before, never even seen him. But now something was different. Everything felt different. Lyra walked with quick, careful steps. She wasn't scared in a normal way. Her movements were controlled, like she had trained for situations far worse than this. Kai kept thinking about the quiet girl who always sat by the window. She had looked harmless, innocent, even. But now she walked like someone running from a shadow only she could see. "Kai," she said quietly, without looking at him. "You must listen to me," he nodded, even though his heartbeat was racing. Lyra's voice had changed again. It was still soft, but now it carried a kind of authority he couldn't explain, almost royal in a way. He felt like he had to obey her without knowing why. She slowed her steps and turned to look at him fully. "Someone is searching for me," she whispered. "Someone dangerous." Kai swallowed hard. He wanted to ask who it was. But Lyra shook her head before he could speak. "Not here," she said. "There are ears everywhere." She looked straight at the drones like she could see through them. And the drones suddenly drifted away, as if afraid of her. Kai stared in shock. How did she do that? Why did the drones react like that? He had cleaned those drones before. They didn't behave like this, not ever. They reached a quieter corridor, one used mostly by maintenance workers. Lyra leaned against the wall, breathing slowly. Kai watched her, noticing the slightest tremble in her hands. That was the first time she looked human to him. The first time she seemed like someone who could break. He stepped closer. "Lyra, are you okay?" he asked gently. She looked at him with a strange expression. Not fear, not sadness, something else. "You should not have spoken to me," she said softly. "You should have walked past me like everyone else." Kai blinked. Confused. "I didn't want to ignore you," he said. "You looked lonely." Lyra stared at him for a long moment, studying him as if trying to understand something. Then she whispered, "That is why this is dangerous," before Kai could ask what she meant. Footsteps echoed from the far end of the corridor. Slow, heavy, and deliberate. Lyra tensed immediately. She grabbed Kai's wrist and pulled him into a side hallway. Pressing him against the wall, Kai's breath caught in his throat. Her grip was stronger than he expected. Far stronger than any normal girl. The footsteps grew louder, closer, and the lights above them dimmed slightly. A cold feeling crawled up Kai's spine. He peered around the wall just a little and saw 3 armored guards walking toward the main corridor. Their armor was black with red markings. Not the normal station security. These were elite soldiers. He had only seen them once before, during a lockdown drill. They never patrolled without a reason, Lyra whispered. They're not searching for anyone else. Kai understood then. They were searching for her. But why? What had she done? What was she hiding? Lyra pulled him back again as the guards stopped near the intersection. One of them scanned the hallway with a device that hummed softly. The air felt charged with tension. Kai held his breath, praying the device wouldn't detect them. The guard's helmet turned slowly, its visor glowing faint red. After a long moment, the guards continued walking, their footsteps fading into the distance. Kai let out a shaky breath. Lyra's voice broke the silence. I must leave the station, she whispered. But I cannot go alone. Kai stared at her, shocked. Why me? He asked. I'm just a janitor. Lyra shook her head. Because you do not want anything from me, she said quietly. You do not know who I am. You do not fear me. That makes you rare. Kai felt something shift inside him. He didn't understand everything, but he understood one thing clearly. Lyra trusted him, even if she had no reason to. And that trust meant more to him than anything he had ever been given. He stepped closer, trying to show strength he didn't feel. Tell me what's happening, he said softly. I want to help. Lyra hesitated, her eyes searching his face as if checking his soul. Then she said the words that would change everything. There was an attack on the Emperor. Her voice was barely above a whisper. And they think I am dead. Kai froze. His mind needed several seconds to process her words. A quiet girl on a space station wasn't supposed to say things like that. Someone dead wasn't supposed to stand in front of him. His mouth went dry. Lyra. Who are you? He whispered. The lights flickered again as she answered slowly. I am the Emperor's heir. And in that moment, Kai felt the entire universe tilt around him. Asterisk Kai felt his breath stop the moment Lyra said she was the Emperor's heir. His mind tried to reject it, to push the idea away. But everything around him now made sense why the guards stared. Why the drones followed, why the alarms earlier had changed her expression. She wasn't just a quiet girl on the station. She was the most important person in the Empire. And no one was supposed to know she was alive. Kai backed up a little, not out of fear, but shock. His voice trembled as he whispered, Why are you here? Why are you hiding? Lyra lowered her hood, letting her hair fall around her shoulders in the soft light. She looked like someone carved from starfire and calmness. Her eyes were filled with a sadness that didn't belong to someone her age. I escaped, she whispered, after the attack. Someone wanted me dead. Kai felt his heart tighten. A girl who sat alone in silence was actually running for her life. He never imagined he would hear something like this in his entire lifetime. He stepped closer, his voice soft but steady. Lyra, who is after you? She looked at the ground. Someone close to the Emperor, she said. Someone powerful. Someone who commands soldiers. Kai's stomach twisted. That meant the traitor wasn't a random enemy. It was someone inside the Empire's heart. Do you know who it is? He asked gently. Lyra shook her head slowly. Not yet, she whispered. But I am getting close to the truth. That is why they searched the station today. They think I am here. Kai rubbed his forehead. Trying to understand everything, he was a janitor, someone who cleaned hallways and carried tools. How did he end up learning a secret that could change the galaxy? And how did he end up being the only person the heir trusted? Lyra put a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was warm and steady. You asked me to the gala, she said softly. You spoke to me like I was normal, like I was just a person. That is why I said yes. Kai felt his cheeks warm. He never expected that a simple invitation would lead to something this huge. He nodded slowly. Then I won't leave you now, he whispered. Not when you need help. Lyra's eyes softened for the first time. Like the walls around her heart lowered just a little, but before she could answer, a sudden metallic click echoed from the upper walkway above them. Both of them froze. Kai looked up carefully and saw a small device attached to the ceiling. It blinked red, once, then twice, Then it turned and pointed directly at them. It was a tracking sensor, a powerful military one, not the normal station device. Someone had activated it. Someone knew where Lyra was. Lyra grabbed Kai's wrist and ran, pulling him through a dark maintenance hallway. Kai almost tripped, but she held on to him with surprising strength. Alarms blared in the distance, lights flashed, and the hallway filled with the sharp sound of security locks closing. Kai's heart raced as they ran through the narrow corridor. Pipes and wires above their heads humming loudly. He could hear soldiers moving on the upper floors, heavy boots pounding on metal, voices shouting orders. Lyra didn't slow down. She moved as if she knew every turn, every hidden path, every blind corner. Kai realized she must have studied the station deeply. Maybe while she was hiding, maybe while planning to survive. He followed her through twisting hallways until they reached a dark service room. She closed the door quietly and pressed her ear against it. Outside, the sound of boots grew louder. Closer, Kai whispered. They know you're alive, Lyra nodded, her face pale but steady. I knew this day would come, she said. But not today. Kai took a deep breath, trying to calm his shaking hands. He looked around the room. It was filled with old machines. Broken robots and dusty crates. There was a small broken window covered with metal mesh. A faint, cold wind came through it, carrying the smell of fuel and space dust. Lyra walked to the corner of the room and pressed a hidden panel on the wall. The metal shifted, revealing a narrow, secret passage behind it. Kai stared in shock. How do you know these places? He asked. Lyra looked at him with a sad smile. This station was designed by my ancestors, she said softly. I grew up studying every level, every hidden room, every escape route. Kai blinked. He couldn't imagine growing up with such knowledge. It was a life far beyond his understanding. Lyra stepped into the passage and motioned him to follow. He crawled inside, the metal walls brushing against his shoulders. It was dark, tight, and cold, but he trusted her completely now. The passage led them downward to the heart of the station. The air grew warmer, the lights flickered. Sometimes Lyra stopped, listening carefully, her eyes sharp. Every time she sensed danger, she grabbed Kai's hand before he even noticed anything. Kai realized she had instincts no normal human could have. Instincts trained for survival and leadership. After crawling for minutes, they reached a small round chamber hidden deep inside the mechanical core. Pipes hissed with steam, and the floor vibrated slightly from the station's engines. Lyra finally stopped and sat down, breathing heavily. Kai sat beside her. Both of them trying to catch their breath. Lyra, Kai whispered. What happens now? She turned to him with eyes filled with fire and fear at the same time. Now, she whispered, we prepare for the gala. Kai stared at her. Confused? But isn't that dangerous? He asked. Won't the traitor be there? Yes, she said softly. And that is why I must go. Kai felt the weight of her words. The gala was no longer a celebration. It was a trap, a battlefield, a place where truth and danger would meet. And Kai, a simple janitor, was now standing next to the heir of the Empire as she prepared to walk straight into the hands of her enemies. Lyra leaned closer and whispered, the gala will reveal everything. And in that moment, Kai understood that nothing would ever be the same again. Asterisk, the hidden chamber shook slightly as the engines of the station roared somewhere deep below them. Kai sat quietly beside Lyra, trying to understand how his life had changed so quickly. Just hours ago, he was cleaning hallways and repairing old machines. Now he was hiding in a secret passage with the Emperor's heir, hunted by soldiers who would kill him without asking a single question. Lyra's breathing slowed as she regained her calm. She looked stronger now, like her fear had turned into determination. Kai watched her quietly, noticing the way her hands rested calmly on her knees. She had faced danger her entire life. She had lived with secrets. But this moment felt heavier than everything before. Kai finally spoke, his voice shaking slightly. Lyra, if the traitor is at the gala, what if they try to attack you again? Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. They will try, she said softly, but this time, I will not be alone. Kai felt a strange warmth inside him. He wanted to protect her, even though he had no weapons, no training, and no status. He was just a janitor. But Lyra's faith in him, that was something new, something powerful. It gave him strength he never knew he had. Lyra stood up and touched a panel on the wall. A small holographic map appeared, glowing blue in the dim chamber. She traced a route with her finger, explaining quietly, "This passage leads to the lower gala preparation area. From there, I can blend in with the guests." Kai blinked. "Confused, blend in?" he asked. "You're the heir? Won't everyone recognize you?" Lyra gave a faint smile. "The Empire thinks I am dead," she whispered. "Most have forgotten my face. Only those close to the Emperor would know me." Kai thought about that. It was strange how someone so important could disappear so completely. But it also meant the traitor would be watching carefully, waiting for any sign of her return. Suddenly, a loud metallic bang echoed through the passage behind them. Kai jumped, fear rushing up his spine. Lyra's eyes widened. She grabbed his hand and pulled him deeper into the chamber. The metal walls vibrated again, followed by muffled voices. Kai whispered. "They found the passage." Lyra nodded, her face tense. "We must move now, without waiting." She opened another hidden door, smaller and darker, leading downward into a narrow tube filled with warm air and the constant hum of machinery. Kai slid in first, followed by Lyra. The space was so tight they could barely move as they crawled forward. They heard footsteps enter the chamber behind them. Heavy boots, armored men, voices echoing. One voice spoke louder than the rest. "Search everywhere." She was here? Lyra froze for a heartbeat. Recognizing the voice, Kai looked back, even though he couldn't see her expression. He felt her fear, not panic, but something deeper. Something connected to her past. They crawled faster. The metal tube becoming steeper, the heat increased as they descended into the lower mechanical levels. Kai's hands grew sweaty, but he refused to slow down. He could hear the soldiers' voices even through the metal walls. They were searching room by room. After several minutes, the tube opened into a maintenance platform above the engine turbines. The roar of the machinery was so loud, Kai had to cover his ears. The floor vibrated under their feet. Lyra stood up carefully. Surveying the huge space around them, pipes ran across the ceiling like metal vines, and the heat shimmered in the air. Kai shouted over the noise. "Where do we go from here?" Lyra pointed to a metal staircase on the far side. "Up there, it leads to the gala storage hall." They ran across the platform. Weaving between machines and hot pipes, Kai stumbled once, but Lyra grabbed his arm before he fell. They reached the staircase just as a new alarm echoed through the station, a sharp warning that shook the air. Lyra froze on the first step. Her eyes widened. "That's not a normal alarm," she whispered. "That means someone accessed the main power controls." Kai frowned. "Why would they do that?" Lyra turned to him slowly. "To cause a blackout at the gala," she said. "And strike in the dark." Kai felt the blood drain from his face. The traitor wasn't planning something small. They were planning a major attack, something that could kill hundreds. Including Lyra, they climbed the stairs quickly, reaching a dark hallway filled with crates, decorations, and luxurious fabrics prepared for the gala. Beautiful golden lights hung from the ceiling, waiting to be installed in the ballroom. Kai looked at the glowing decorations and felt a strange chill. Something so beautiful would soon become a battlefield. Lyra walked between the crates, her fingers brushing the silk cloth gently. She looked calm, focused, but Kai sensed her fear hiding underneath. He whispered, "Lyra, we can still run. We can escape the station." She stopped and looked at him, her eyes soft. "If I run," she said quietly, "the Empire will fall into the traitor's hands." Kai swallowed hard. He knew she was right. The Empire needed her. But the thought of her walking into danger terrified him. Before he could speak again, a shadow moved at the far end of the hallway. Kai pulled Lyra behind a crate instantly. His heart pounded as heavy footsteps approached. A tall figure stepped into the light, wearing black armor with red stripes. The same elite armor as the soldiers, but this man walked differently. With confidence, with authority, Lyra whispered, her voice trembling for the first time. That's him. Kai froze. Oh, he whispered back. Lyra's eyes darkened. The one who betrayed the Emperor, she said. The commander. Kai felt cold fear crawl down his spine. The commander stood only a few steps away, scanning the storage hall like a predator searching for prey. He spoke into his communicator, his voice calm and cold. She is near. I can feel it. Lyra's breath hitched. But she remained silent. Kai held her hand tightly, trying to give her even a little courage, even though he felt like falling apart inside. The commander turned slowly, his visor glowing faintly. Then he said something that made Kai's entire body go rigid. Find the boy with her, he ordered. Kill him. Kai's heart stopped. Lyra grabbed his hand and whispered, we must move. Now, and together they ran deeper into the shadows. As the commander's soldiers spread out, hunting them both, Asterisk, Kai, and Lyra ran through the narrow Gala storage hallway, their footsteps muffled by thick carpets laid out for the event. Behind them, the heavy boots of armored soldiers echoed like thunder. Growing louder with every second, Kai's lungs burned, but he didn't dare slow down. Lyra kept his hand tightly in hers, her grip strong, guiding him through the maze of crates and decorations as if she had memorized every corner. Golden banners and shining ornaments swung wildly as they brushed past. Things meant for celebration now trembling from fear. The hallway lights flickered again and again, shadows jumping across the walls like living creatures. Kai felt as if the entire station was alive, watching them, reacting to them, warning them. Lyra suddenly pulled him behind a tall stack of metal cases, both of them crouching low. Kai could hear soldiers scanning the area, their armor clinking softly. One soldier whispered, "The commander says she is close." Another replied, "And the boy must die first." Kai felt his heart drop. A cold wave rushed over him. He had never been important enough for anyone to notice. But now people were hunting him because he dared talk to the wrong girl. He caught his breath, trying to stay calm. Lyra noticed the fear in his eyes and placed her hand gently on his cheek. "Kai," she whispered softly. "Look at me." He raised his eyes slowly, breathing unevenly. Lyra's voice remained quiet, but firm. "This is not your fault," she said. "They hunt you because you protected me. That makes you stronger than any soldier here." Kai felt a warmth inside him, a small spark of courage. He nodded slowly, trusting her more than he trusted himself. The soldiers spread out, their lights scanning the room. Lyra leaned close to Kai's ear and whispered, "We must reach the lower balcony above the gala hall. From there, I can reveal the truth." Kai frowned. "Reveal what?" Lyra took a shaky breath. "The traitor," she whispered. "I know who it is now." Before Kai could ask who, she pressed her finger to her lips and signaled him to move quietly. They slipped between two large crates, staying low. The sound of soldiers growing distant for a moment, but as they turned the corner, the entire hallway was suddenly flooded with a blinding white light. "Halt!" a voice shouted. Kai's heart jumped. He grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her back behind a display of large decorative pillars. The pillars were tall enough to hide them. But the soldiers were closing in fast. Lyra looked at Kai with urgency. "There's one chance," she whispered. "A service lift near the far wall. If we reach it before they shoot, we can escape." Kai nodded. Even though the plan sounded almost impossible, too many soldiers, too little time. But he trusted her completely. Lyra counted quietly under her breath. 3, 2, 1. They ran. Bursting from behind the pillars, soldiers shouted. Weapons charged, lasers fired, bright red beams shot past them, slicing through decorations and sending sparks flying. Kai ducked as a beam scorched the wall above his head. Lyra pulled him forward with surprising strength. her movements fast and graceful, almost unreal. The service lift was only a few meters away, but the soldiers were already closing the gap. One of them shouted, "Stop them." Kai reached the lift first and slammed the button. The door opened slowly, painfully slowly. Lyra grabbed Kai and pushed him inside. Then she spun around and raised her hand toward the soldiers. Kai had never seen anything like what happened next. A pulse of shimmering blue energy burst from Lyra's hand, like a wave of silent lightning. The air vibrated. The lights flickered wildly. The soldiers staggered back, their armor crackling with static. Some dropped their weapons. Others fell to one knee. Kai stared in shock. "Lyra?" he whispered. "What? What was that?" Lyra didn't answer. She pushed him deeper into the lift and stepped in after him, pressing the emergency close button. The door slid shut just as the soldiers recovered and fired again. The lift dropped suddenly, moving fast toward the lower levels. Kai held on to the railing, his heart pounding in his chest. Lyra leaned against the wall, breathing hard. For the first time he saw her truly shaken. Kai swallowed. "Lyra, you have powers?" She nodded slowly. "Every heir of the Imperial bloodline does," she whispered, "but mine awakened too early. And someone feared what I could become." Kai felt goosebumps crawl across his skin. "The commander," he said quietly. "He wants your power." A shadow crossed Lyra's face. "He killed the Emperor," she whispered. "And they blamed rebels for it, but I saw his face before I escaped." Kai froze. The truth was bigger than he imagined. The commander wasn't just a traitor. He was a murderer, a man who stole the future of the Empire. The lift slowed, the doors opening silently into a dark balcony overlooking the Grand Gala hall below. Kai and Lyra stepped out, the massive ballroom stretching beneath them. Thousands of people dressed in shining clothes, unaware of the disaster hiding in the shadows above them. Lyra looked down with steady eyes. "This is where it ends," she whispered. Kai frowned. "Lyra, what are you going to do?" She stepped forward, the glowing lights from the hall reflecting in her eyes. "I'm going to show them the truth," she said. "I am going to reclaim my empire." But before she could take another step, a cold metallic click echoed behind them. Kai turned slowly. The commander stood at the balcony entrance, alone, a cruel smile behind his helmet. His weapon pointed directly at Kai. "Move aside, Heir," he said calmly, "or the boy dies." Lyra's eyes filled with fury, something ancient and powerful stirring inside her. The air began to vibrate again. Kai felt the tension snap like lightning. The final battle for the Empire had begun.